There are women who walk through life carrying something ancient within them, a silent knowing that sets them apart from the rushing world around them. You sense it when you meet them, though you may not understand why. Their presence holds a depth that cannot be learned from books or borrowed from experiences. It rises from within, like water from an underground spring that has been flowing long before this lifetime began. Something in their eyes speaks of journeys taken through inner landscapes most people never glimpse. Carl Jung spoke of souls that carry the accumulated wisdom of the collective unconscious, consciousnesses that have traveled through layers of human experience beyond what a single lifetime could contain. These are not theories or romantic notions. They are recognizable patterns that emerge naturally in certain women, 12 distinct signs that reveal themselves without effort or intention. The woman with an old soul does not choose these traits. They choose her. She lives them because she cannot live any other way, as naturally as a river follows the path carved by ancient waters. What you are about to discover may mirror something you have always felt but never named. These 12 signs are not accomplishments to achieve or goals to pursue. They are revelations of what already exists beneath the surface of your being. Recognizing them does not create them. It simply brings to light what has been true all along. And this recognition changes everything about how you understand yourself and your place in a world that often seems designed for a different kind of person entirely. The first sign appears as a hunger that material comfort cannot satisfy. While others find contentment in accumulation and achievement, the woman with an old soul wakes each morning with a question burning quietly inside her chest. What does this all mean? The question is not philosophical entertainment or idle curiosity. It is a vital need, like breath or water. She cannot ignore it even when she tries. Her search for meaning often leads her away from conventional paths. While others follow prescribed routes, she finds herself drawn to philosophy, depth psychology, spiritual traditions that speak to the soul's evolution rather than the ego's satisfaction. She reads Jung not for academic interest, but because his words describe an inner terrain she has been navigating without a map. She recognizes herself in his descriptions of individuation, that lifelong process of becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. This seeking takes her to places others cannot understand. Have you ever felt homesick for somewhere you have never been? The second sign manifests as an inexplicable connection to certain places, cultures, or historical periods. A woman with an old soul may encounter a landscape and feel a recognition so profound it brings tears. Not nostalgia for a remembered vacation, but a cellular memory that transcends this single existence. She stands before ancient ruins or walks through a particular landscape, and something inside her whispers, "I know this place." She might feel an inexplicable affinity for Celtic spirituality, or find herself moved to tears by Japanese tea ceremony, or sense a deep recognition when studying indigenous wisdom traditions. These are not casual interests or aesthetic preferences. They feel like remembering rather than learning. When she encounters these resonances, something inside her relaxes, as if a part of her that has been holding its breath can finally exhale. Not literally a past life memory, though she may wonder, but rather an archetypal resonance. The soul recognizes patterns it has witnessed through the vast memory of humanity itself. The third sign reveals itself in how she relates to suffering. Her compassion is not performed or cultivated through moral effort. It emerges naturally, like a spring that cannot help but flow. The woman with an old soul perceives the unity between all beings not as a spiritual concept, but as a lived reality. When she witnesses pain in another, she does not separate herself from it. She recognizes it as part of the universal human experience. The boundaries between self and other feel permeable to her in ways that can be both gift and burden. Her desire to help arises without need for recognition or gratitude. She gives because giving is the natural expression of understanding that there is no real separation between self and other. When someone suffers, part of her suffers. Not in a codependent or boundaryless way, but from genuine recognition of interconnection. This empathy can be exhausting, for she feels the world's weight more acutely than most. She cannot easily turn away from suffering or dismiss it as someone else's problem. She carries awareness of collective pain that others manage to ignore through distraction or denial. Yet despite this exquisite sensitivity, the fourth sign emerges as an unshakable inner calm. External crises do not destabilize her core. She has witnessed through some mysterious inner knowing the transitory nature of all human dramas. While others panic during turbulence, she becomes a natural point of stability. Not because she is indifferent, but because she has learned that the storm always passes. She has developed what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to hold tension between opposites without collapsing into one side or the other. In moments of collective despair, people instinctively turn to her, sensing her groundedness even if they cannot articulate why. Her presence communicates that it is possible to remain centered when the world tilts. She does not preach or reassure with empty platitudes. Her very being becomes a reminder that there is something in us that cannot be destroyed by circumstances, a core essence that survives every loss and betrayal. This quality makes her a natural counselor, the friend others call in crisis, the colleague who remains clear-headed when everyone else is reactive. This inner stability allows the fifth sign to manifest with particular clarity. She is perpetually ahead of her time, perceiving patterns and cultural shifts before they become obvious to others. Jungian thought explains this as heightened sensitivity to archetypal patterns stirring in the collective unconscious before they crystallize into social movements or widespread awareness. Jung believed that significant cultural changes first emerge as shifts in the collective unconscious, rippling outward into dreams, art, and the intuitions of sensitive individuals before manifesting as obvious social phenomena. Yet this gift often isolates her. When she speaks of changes she perceives, others may dismiss her as impractical, strange, or overly dramatic. They are not ready to see what she sees. Years later, when her observations become mainstream, no one remembers that she spoke of it first. Being a pioneer means carrying the loneliness of vision. She has learned not to explain too much, for those who are ready will understand, and those who are not will resist no matter how clearly she articulates her knowing. She walks ahead of the collective, which means she often walks alone. This necessary distance from collective consciousness naturally leads to the sixth sign that marks the woman with an old soul. She not only tolerates solitude, she requires it as essential nourishment. For her, time alone is not social failure or escape from responsibility. It is the sacred space where she returns to herself, where she can hear the whispers of her inner world without the constant noise of external demands and expectations drowning them out. She often feels like a foreigner in her own time, as if she arrived from another era and is trying to navigate customs that feel alien to her nature. The speed of modern life, the superficiality of most social interaction, the noise and distraction that others seem to thrive on. These things drain her energy rather than enlivening it. Moments of solitude become opportunities for integration, for processing the overwhelming input of a world that moves too fast and values too little. In silence, she reconnects with the source of her knowing, that quiet voice within that speaks truth when everything external is clamor and confusion. Others may worry she is lonely, but she understands the difference between loneliness and sacred aloneness. In solitude, she is not running from connection. She is returning to the deepest connection possible, the one with her own soul. Here she can read, reflect, create, simply be without performing or explaining. She emerges from these periods renewed, able to engage with the world again because she has touched the still point within that reminds her who she is beneath all roles and obligations. This capacity for productive solitude is one of her greatest strengths, though the world rarely recognizes it as such. The seventh sign appears in her relationship with material possessions and external markers of success. She cannot attach meaning to accumulation. Objects feel heavy to her, temporary and ultimately empty of real value. Jung taught that the experienced soul recognizes the futility of gathering what cannot be carried beyond this life. She has released the illusion that happiness can be purchased or that status provides genuine fulfillment. This realization did not come from moralistic rejection of materialism. It arose naturally from lived experience, from discovering that each achievement and acquisition she pursued left her feeling the same inside. This does not mean she lives in poverty or rejects beauty. Rather, she finds richness in simplicity, recognizing essence beneath appearance. A sunset moves her more than an expensive purchase. A genuine conversation feeds her more than a prestigious social event. She has internalized the truth that only inner growth and authentic experience constitute lasting treasure. Everything else is borrowed scenery in a play that will eventually end, props we use temporarily before returning them when the curtain falls. The eighth sign shows itself in her natural affinity with children and the elderly. Jung observed that evolved souls recognize in children the archetype of the eternal child, the puer aeternus, representing original purity and unfiltered connection to the archetypal realm. She sees in their eyes something she remembers, a clarity not yet obscured by societal conditioning. Children respond to her differently than to most adults. They sense she sees them truly, not as projects to mold, but as complete souls in smaller bodies. She speaks to children with respect, understanding that age does not determine the depth of a soul. She listens to their observations, their questions, their imaginative constructions of reality, recognizing in these expressions a wisdom that adults have forgotten. Children often share with her what they hide from others, sensing safety in her presence. She creates space for them to be authentically themselves, which is perhaps the greatest gift one soul can give another. This affinity with both ends of the life spectrum reveals a profound truth. Real age is measured not in years, but in depth of soul. She relates to both children and elders because they are closest to the veil, to the truth that middle life often forgets in its busy preoccupation with building and maintaining. Children have recently arrived from mystery, elders are preparing to return to it. She stands in that middle space but remains oriented toward the mystery rather than the mundane, which is why she finds kinship at both ends of the age spectrum. The ninth sign manifests as an organic spiritual hunger that arises from her core. Her interest in transcendent realities does not emerge from crisis or desperation, not from fear of death or need for comfort. It is a natural need of her being, like a plant turning toward light. According to Jung, old souls possess developed intuition that spontaneously perceives subtle dimensions of reality invisible to ordinary awareness. The spiritual realm is not an escape for her, but a recognition of what is fundamentally real, the invisible scaffolding that holds the visible world. Religious dogmas and rigid doctrines feel constrictive to her expanded vision. She respects traditions but cannot confine herself to any single interpretation of truth. She may study many paths, finding wisdom in unexpected places. Christianity's mystics, Buddhism's meditation practices, indigenous animism, Jungian psychology as a spiritual path. She draws from diverse sources, weaving her own understanding. She knows that ultimate truth cannot be contained in words or rules. It must be experienced directly, lived personally, discovered through one's own inner journey. This spiritual orientation shapes how she moves through the world. She seeks meaning rather than pleasure, growth rather than comfort, truth rather than distraction. This does not make her grim or joyless. In fact, she often experiences profound joy in simple moments because she perceives the luminous quality underlying ordinary experience. A shared meal becomes communion. A difficult conversation becomes opportunity for deeper connection. Loss becomes initiation into more authentic living. Everything is spiritual practice when you approach life with this level of awareness. The 10th sign is perhaps the most visible to others, revealing itself in a quality that cannot be manufactured or hidden. Her eyes carry something that cannot be faked. There is a depth in her gaze that speaks of long inner journeys, of sorrows metabolized into wisdom, of illusions surrendered and truths embraced. Jung said that eyes reflect not only this life but the wisdom of the self, that deeper center of consciousness that connects to something eternal beyond the ego's small concerns and ambitions. When you look into her eyes, you sense you are seen completely. Not just the persona you present, but the truth beneath it. This can be deeply comforting or profoundly unsettling depending on how at peace you are with your own depths. Her gaze does not judge, but it perceives. There is a quality of witnessing, of recognition that can make others feel simultaneously exposed and accepted. She sees your shadow and your light, your wounds and your potential, and she does not turn away from either. When two old souls meet, there is often a moment of silent recognition that passes between them through eye contact alone. No words are needed. The acknowledgement is instantaneous and profound. They know. In that moment, the isolation each carries eases slightly. Someone else sees what they see, understands what they understand. These meetings are rare and therefore precious. They confirm that she is not alone in her way of being, even though most of her life she walks a path others do not recognize. Her eyes also reveal what she has integrated. Jung spoke extensively about the shadow, those parts of ourselves we reject and repress. The woman with an old soul has done the difficult work of facing her shadow, acknowledging her capacity for darkness, integrating what she found there rather than projecting it outward. This integration shows in her eyes as a paradoxical quality, a gentleness born from knowing her own hardness, a compassion born from acknowledging her own capacity for cruelty. She has met herself completely, and that meeting transformed her gaze. The 11th sign reveals itself in her powerful intuition, a knowing that operates beyond rational analysis. This is not guesswork or wishful thinking. Her intuition functions as a direct line to the collective unconscious, accessing wisdom that bypasses linear thought. Jung explained that intuition is the voice of the psyche speaking through present moment awareness, drawing on knowledge that exists beyond personal experience. It is one of the 4 functions of consciousness in his typology, the one that perceives possibilities and patterns not yet visible to sensing or thinking. She has learned to trust these inner guidances even when they contradict logic or common opinion. Often her intuitive hits prove accurate in ways that surprise even her. She might sense when someone is lying without any concrete evidence, their words sounding right but something in her knowing they are false. She can predict outcomes before they unfold, feeling in her body which direction to move even when she cannot explain why. She knows she should avoid certain situations, decline certain opportunities without understanding the reasons, until later when events reveal the wisdom of her choice. This gift can be isolating because she lives in a culture that worships rational proof and dismisses subtle knowing. When she acts on intuition, others may question her decision-making or suggest she is being irrational. Yet she has learned the hard way that ignoring her intuition always leads to regret. Every time she has overridden that quiet inner knowing to please others or conform to external logic, she has paid a price. She has learned to honor this gift even when she cannot defend it logically, even when doing so makes her seem odd or impractical to others. Her intuition also guides her spiritual and psychological development. She knows when it is time to leave a situation, when a relationship has completed its purpose, when she needs to withdraw for inner work, when she is ready to emerge into new expression. This intuitive guidance operates like an inner compass, constantly orienting her toward her next stage of growth. She does not need external authorities to tell her what she should do. The wisdom moves through her directly, and she has learned to recognize its voice among all the other voices clamoring for her attention. The 12th and final sign appears in her exceptional understanding of human nature. The woman with an old soul sees through social masks with ease. She perceives the hidden motivations, unconscious patterns, and shadow material that people work hard to conceal. Jung taught that those who have integrated their own shadow naturally recognize the ego games of others. Having faced her own darkness, her own capacity for self-deception, her own defended places, she can read these same patterns in others like a map she has memorized. She is not fooled by charm or impressive presentations. She reads energy and intention more accurately than words and actions. Someone can speak beautifully, but she senses the emptiness behind the eloquence. Another person may be awkward and inarticulate, yet she perceives the genuine heart beneath the clumsy expression. This perceptiveness protects her from manipulation and false relationships. She cannot be easily conned or seduced by appearances. She sees what is real. Yet this clarity also generates a particular kind of loneliness. When you see through pretense, genuine connection becomes rare and precious. Most social interaction occurs on a surface level she can no longer fully inhabit. Small talk exhausts her because she perceives the authentic feelings and needs beneath the polite exchanges, the pain people are working so hard to hide, the longings they have learned to deny. She finds herself surrounded by people while feeling profoundly alone, for few are willing or able to meet her at the depth where she naturally resides. She is not arrogant about this awareness. If anything, it makes her more compassionate, for she understands that most people are unconsciously driven by wounds and fears they have not yet faced. She sees the child within every adult, the hurt beneath every defense, the longing beneath every pretense. This understanding prevents judgment even as it creates distance. She cannot unsee what she sees, cannot return to the innocence of taking everything at face value. This is the price and the privilege of penetrating sight. These 12 signs do not appear as achievements to collect or goals to reach. They emerge naturally like flowers from a tree with deep roots. The woman with an old soul does not seek to prove her maturity to anyone, least of all herself. She simply lives from this reality, often without recognizing how different her inner world is from those around her. She may go through life feeling like a perpetual outsider, wondering why she cannot simply be normal, why she cannot find satisfaction in what satisfies others, why she is wired so differently. Jung reminds us that recognizing yourself as an old soul is not cause for pride, but an invitation to responsibility. It asks you to honor your unique path of individuation, that lifelong process of becoming fully yourself. It requires that you accept both the gifts and the burdens that come with deeper sight. You cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you see. You cannot return to unconsciousness once awareness has dawned. This is your task, to live your truth with integrity even when the world does not understand or value what you offer. The true mark of an evolved soul is humility before the infinite mystery of existence. She knows that no matter how much she understands, there are infinite layers still hidden from view. Each answer opens into deeper questions. Each insight reveals how much remains unknown. She walks her path with dignity and quiet grace, not seeking applause or recognition, simply being true to the ancient wisdom that lives within her. She has learned that her worth does not depend on being understood or appreciated by others. It exists intrinsically, woven into the fabric of her being. If these signs resonated with something deep inside you, perhaps you have always known what you are just now beginning to name. This recognition is not the end of a journey, but a new beginning, an invitation to live more consciously from the truth of who you are. You are not alone in this way of being, though it often feels that way. There are others who walk this path, who understand this particular blend of gifts and loneliness, who see what you see and feel what you feel. Subscribe to continue exploring the depths of your own soul through the lens of Carl Jung's wisdom and the mysteries of the feminine psyche. Share in the comments which of these 12 signs spoke most directly to your experience. Do you recognize yourself in this description? Have you struggled to understand why you feel so different from others? Your story matters. Your ancient knowing has purpose, and there are others here who need to know they are not alone in carrying this particular kind of consciousness. Let us walk this path together, honoring the old souls who hold wisdom the world desperately needs, even when it does not know how to receive it.